Hi, this is Quarian Anarchy, and this is Marcus Pulis, and you will see my two buddies here, Nicco and Chad. And for the first time in like weeks, I can see me some Nicco, and that's badass.
Welcome back, brother.
Yeah, no, he's not in the spirit world anymore.
It's not disembodied Nicco anymore. It's real Nicco.
Yeah, we have a face to go with the voice now. Okay.
There we go.
So tonight's going to be a kind of a bonus little conversation. We had actually scheduled Dan, Taxation is Theft Behrman, for tonight, but he's in a hurricane because he lives in Mexico. And so he let me know today that there might be a last minute cancellation, but that's fine. There's plenty of stuff in the news that we can talk about. And it's been a minute since we've talked about the news, so I think that that's pretty good. And for those who are starting to catch us on Patreon or starting to catch us on Anchor or any of these other places, and I strongly suggest you go to those places. And I will also point out that you can give us for just the low, low price of $5. At Patreon, you get access to not only this show, but the following show that takes place after we kind of stop the official evolution of the revolution and start the Anarchy After Hour, which tends to be a little more just personal conversation and those kinds of things, but it also tends to be some of the more juicy stuff. And so I strongly suggest that. And if you happen to be listening to us on Anchor, one of the things that you can do is you can sponsor us. As we talked last week, it would be really nice for Nicco and I to get new cameras and get new microphones. And
damn straight, somebody's got to be pulling their own weight around here, not just me. Damn.
Right. So please subscribe, support what we're doing. We are trying to offer a different take on news, on the movers and shakers and solution-based people in the freedom movement. And I think we do it in a way that is different than anybody else I've ever seen. And so please support that. So moving from there, it's been an interesting week. So Trump kind of had the coronavirus for like a day, and he was so sick, and then he was so better, and then he's so sick, and then he's so better. And I think that it was all just bullshit, and they were polling it out to figure out how it was going to play, and it didn't play the way they wanted, so he's back. So what do you guys think of that whole debacle?
Nicco, you go, man.
I think that it was a ploy from the start. Trump catching coronavirus and then, spiking his name back in the news. Good publicity, bad publicity, doesn't matter. It's still publicity, still getting your name out there. So it was definitely a way for him to, get his name talking again. But man, oh man, Twitter was blowing up with them Simpsons memes. Basket. Just, here's the day. And look, it shows you how fucked up we are as a society where we're hoping that somebody croaks from it. Look, we all have had our dirty deeds, and this man's running a president that's been ran on dirty deeds from the beginning. So it's at the end of the day, whose hand are we going to smack? His for getting away with it, but people who that just created it, and we don't do either of them. Or no, we smack his hand and we leave theirs as well. But I think it's just funny, and this is just a little tactic and a ploy. That's all.
For sure.
So I had a little bit of a different take when I saw that that he was they were talking about he was taking remdesivir, one of the little remedies that you're supposed to take. I was like, dude, first thing Monday morning, I jumped on Gilead calls for a month and a half from now. So, and they're already up. I'm up. I'm not up a bunch, but 10, 20%, and just waiting to kind of ride that out to see. Because I just look at it all right, You know, I know, you know, some of these pharmaceutical companies that are sponsoring a lot of this stuff. So I jumped on that, and I just kind of watched this. I actually think just kind of removing myself from the thing. There's a 0% chance I'm voting for the guy. But I actually think that for anybody who thought there was a chance he might lose this thing, I think that he just pretty much solidified his victory with this, doing this, taking it and just kind of shrugging it off, regardless of what you believe about what really happened or anything like that. Having the virus, having all these people come out and like have rallies in their own cities, and then other people coming to Walter Reed and doing their rallies there, like, get well, Trump, get well soon, you know, all that kind of shit. And then him just kind of coming out and being like, yeah, bitch ass Corona. We got, and then like doing his thing. I will say this, like, there were people like shitting on the whole, him like coming out of the helicopter and saluting and taking off his mask. I saw Wolf Blitzer, you know, go on there and being like, oh, this is reckless, and I hope that photographer knows what he's doing. This is very dangerous. And I'm like, bitch, shut the fuck up. Your name is Wolf Blitzer, and you act like a fucking pussy. Like, seriously, like, Wolf Blitzer, you should be like the baddest ass dude. Like, that's like that is like a 17-inch dick porn name. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that dude should not be acting like he's, I swear to God, the dude is like Jussie Smollett, you know? Like, chill the fuck out, dude. So anyway.
Do you remember in like 2012, Herman Cain called him Blitz?
No, but that's perfect.
His name and called him Blitz.
Like, I don't know if your name is Blitz Wolfer or Blofwitzer or what the fuck your name is. But anyway, so you know, seeing that stuff and then seeing how the response, it's so, I was telling a guy I work with, I was like, this whole thing is like, it's this big Rorschach test for so many people. Like, if you love Trump, it's like, oh my God, he's so courageous and he's so strong and he's such a great leader and all this kind of stuff. And if you hate Trump, it's like, oh my God, this is a slap in the face to all the people who've been victims of coronavirus. Like, really? Like, let's think about this. If somebody like has cancer and beats it, do you say, like Lance Armstrong, that's a slap in the face to all the people who've died of cancer? No. It's like, it's an inspiration. But if you hate Lance Armstrong, then you're like happy that he got busted for blood doping and everything else. And so it's like, it just doesn't matter. Like, the haters are going to hate. The people who are like sycophants are going to sycophant. And all we know is that no matter what, all the time, statists are going to state. And so I saw this as just like a way to, you know, he goes out, he does his little speech, and he's talking about how the vaccine is coming and it's going to be great and all this stuff. And I'm like, fuck you, get that shit away from me. There's no way I'm getting that shit. And then like Ivanka Trump puts out a tweet today about the flu shot and how you have to get the flu shot and all this stuff. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, you know how many children and babies and other people die from that shit every year? Not to mention the fact that if it has any value at all, it's like maybe 25% effective at doing whatever it's supposed to do. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit.
People don't think that we're our own doctors. You know, we have to listen to the guys in the medical codes. And, you know, when Trump says this herd mentality thing, everybody is like getting mad at it. But I'm like, I'm fairly sure that's how we became immune to all this other bullshit they put out on us. It's herd immunity in the first place. Is because everybody gets adapted to it. What kind of fucking sense it makes that America is still the only place that's still accumulating large amounts of coronavirus cases while everybody else is like, oh, well, you have to get scanned even before you get in your car, damn it. Like, and they prevented. Their prevention is so much more effective than America, and we're still in this damn predicament. Like, how are we still stuck in this?
Well, the answer to how, Hayek said, F.A. Hayek said, emergencies have always been the pretext on which the safeguards of individual liberty have been eroded. That's just where it's at, and that is absolutely what they've done with coronavirus. I like what Thomas Massey came out and said. And if there is anybody in the U.S. government that I like, it's Thomas Massey.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong. I don't like any Republicans or Democrats. I don't. Hell, I barely like libertarians. So, so I don't like this motherfucker, really. But if there's anybody, it's him.
Yeah.
And so he came out and it was like, all right, well, I got tested. I've got the antibodies, but I don't have coronavirus. So can I stop wearing a mask? Because he's like, because if you have the antibodies, then you can't spread it.
Right. Like, yeah. Like I almost want to try that. It'll be like, no, it's cool. Like I tested, I have the antibodies. So like I'm good.
Yep.
I'm not going to get sick and I'm not going to get you sick. So
Right.
I'm good. I don't need to
Yep.
wear a mask. Because remember that story I told you a while back about those people who we knew that went camping really far away. I won't say where because I don't want to give up to. Well, anyway, not long after that, they came back. They came over to our house, and I was like, "Well, did they?" I was out of town. I was like, "Did they wear masks, or were they like freaking out about it?" And she's like, "Oh no, now that they already got it, they're not afraid anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." So like everything's all nervous until now they feel like they're safe, and so then they don't give a shit about like coming up. But it does kind of go to that. Yeah, if you tested positive already, if you already had it, you kicked it or whatever. Well, now you can't. Theoretically, you can't get anybody else sick, and you can't get sick either. It's kind of like having the chicken pox. Like once you're done, and that's it. It's gone.
Well, that goes to what Nicco was saying. That's the real herd
immunity. Yeah.
Herd immunity
Mhm.
is when enough people have had it.
Yeah.
To where they can't, and it's really difficult for it to move.
Right, to transmit. Yeah, it has to jump from it has to go through multiple iterations of like getting really lucky at having someone who's never had it and who also has it now. Like it's like this real difficult thread the needle sort of thing. But well, so also back to the herd immunity thing. What's always been fascinating to me, the same guy that I was talking with at work, he was saying, he's like at some point we got to get to the point. He said this months ago. It was like, we're just going to have to like move on and accept this. Like, this is just like cancer or like anything else. Like, yeah, we can look for a cure, researchers can keep research, but we got to move on and we got to live, because you can't just go through life with this. Because I've seen people say like, you just have to accept that there will be no going back to normal again. I'm like, no, fuck you. You need to just accept that like this shit is what it is. And I don't wish ill on anybody, but for God's sake, like we can't keep living like this. Man, what happened to Nicco?
I don't know. Everybody wants to hit my phone up. So
you gotta put that do not disturb on, man.
Yeah, there we go. We did it. All
right.
No more phone calls.
For sure, though, back to Trump, because I want to get into that fucking debate. Trump like buried the fuck out of that shit. He looked like a dumbass. So did Biden. Don't get me wrong. They both look dumber than shit. But
somebody said a cardboard cutout of Joe Jorgensen won that debate.
Right.
I was like, it's probably
nobody knows who the fuck she is.
Right, exactly.
Because they put her way the fucking behind some shit.
Right. Yeah, you saw the thing where they tried to get her to move her bus so she could do her little protest or whatever. It's like,
right. Yeah, Adam has told her flat out. Adam Kokesh is a friend of mine.
Yeah, I saw him and CJ talking about it yesterday. That he was like, I would have done this. I would have, So again, it's back to what we talked about before. Adam and Vermin are the only two people who were equipped to capitalize on this moment. And the party blew it.
Yeah. Because why the fuck is Joe Jorgensen not causing more stink? Why is she not?
It's the perfect opportunity. It's the perfect opportunity.
Because she's timid.
Yeah.
And
no, right.
It's not time to be timid.
This is not a time for timidity. No, not at all. Anyway, go on with what you were saying about the debate, though. I want you to.
No, I just really think that Trump managed to. If for those that might have kind of, I don't know that I can vote for that dude, but he just yanked them right the fuck back with this coronavirus bullshit. And that debate was a hucklefuck. And for those that don't know, we didn't see the first half live because we were busy doing our show.
Doing more important things.
Right.
What you say, Nico?
Doing more important things.
Right, for sure. But when I did get to look at it, I was like, holy shit, who the fuck thinks these people need to be in charge of fucking the dog catcher? Much less nuclear weapons. Fuck those people.
I was thinking about the whole thing about people being qualified to be president. The reality of the matter is, I don't know that there has been anyone in decades at least who is quote unquote qualified for this. What they're qualified to do is take orders from the people who really run shit. That's all they're qualified to do, because none of these people are like really making these decisions.
Nope.
Like, because I was thinking through like, okay, well, what would Jorgensen do differently to kind of manage some of the shit that's coming at you and everything? And I was like, oh, well, that's simple. Like, she would probably even get like overwhelmed with and so that's why they have all these people that there's this constant crisis mode that were put in, and then they just have these like major crises like 9/11 or coronavirus or the 2008 financial collapse or whatever the hell it may be at any given time. But really what it is like there are these vast committees of different bureaucrats and stuff like that who are selected by other people who are not elected by us. Not that these people are really elected by us anyway, but that's, I repeat myself. The reality is that these policies and everything are already like written, ready to go, boilerplate, and they just change the dates and the names of the crises and then hand the paper over. And that's why you end up with this stuff where it's like the 2008 financial crisis. It's like there's shit in there for like all these different programs that have nothing to do with any of that stuff.
Yep.
And it's, it ends up being over $1 trillion worth of shit when it's all said and done. And then they just like enough-tupled that shit with this thing. They're like, 1 trillion, fuck that, 9 trillion, bitches.
Right. Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, look at this is all such manipulation. And you're right, there isn't a motherfucker, not one person who is qualified. Nobody, not a single person, in my opinion, is qualified to rule over another person, because no one has that ability to rule over you. You know what you need, I know what I need. And Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, fucking
Ed Cruz, Marco Rubio, Jeb
right,
Bush.
none of them pieces of shit definitely should have anything to do with my life, because I've seen how they handle money. And if I handled money like they handled money, I'd have been fucked a month ago. So they don't need to be doing none of that.
They handle their money quite fine. They don't handle the
they
public
handle
coffers.
Your money.
They
handle your money.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like they take care of their own bank account. Their own bank account ends up way sweeter when it's all said and done than ours does every time. Sure. Yeah. That's why they go in there and make, what is it, $175 a year or something like that, roughly.
Wait. That's another thing that kind of
come out of there $30 million richer. Like, how the fuck you do that?
All these politicians been sitting here for like a good 30, 40, good ass years in this White House and all the Senate and shit, and they bank accounts look nice and fat, but I still see a whole bunch of black people's bank accounts looking pretty shitty and salty, but y'all still voting for the people, but they still eating good.
Oh yeah, and DC is like one of the worst examples of that. Like DC is one of the poorest, most like just like crime-ridden and everything places in the world. And well, maybe not poorest in the world, but crime-ridden, yes, and poorest in the U.S., definitely. Unless you look at K Street, where all the lobbyists, all the politicians, and everything, all the committee members and everything, all the staffers, all the little pages and everything, where they all live. No, those people are living real good. And I go back to, if you look at where some of these people live, and you think about the fact that a Senate job pays like under $200,000 a year. Like, it's hard to live like a lavish lifestyle in Baton Rouge at under $200,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah.
And these people are like, they come out of that with like 40 million extra dollars that came out of nowhere. And the answer is it's their investments that are tied to the legislation they're on the committees of.
Yeah. And the thing is, to both of your points, I several years ago, and it's been quite a few years ago at this point, I worked for volunteered for a Republican running for Congress. Her name was Christy Risk. She's a wonderful lady, and she meant well, and very libertarian leaning, Ron Paul kind of Republican. And she went to Washington, D.C. and met with Justin Amash. And the answer to this question is answered by, or how they get all this money is answered by the answer to her question. When she asked Amash, she said, I noticed that you do your own Facebook and you answer your own and you do all that stuff. How do you have time to do that? And he said, well, I'm going to take you someplace and I'll show you. So he took her to a hotel. And apparently there's just rows upon rows of people and their congressmen and senators going from door to door to door to door in this hotel, and they'd spend 5 minutes here and then go to the next door and they'd spend 5 minutes there. And she goes, what is this? And what's this have to do with my question? He said, those are all lobbyists and I don't do that. And so at every single step, not only because he didn't, well, his point was he doesn't deal with lobbyists, so he has time to do his Twitter, to do his stuff. But the facts are how they manage to get all this fucking money. One is they get kickbacks from this and that.
Absolutely.
Thing.
Absolutely.
But they also get paid by lobbyists a lot to sign off on those bills that they're handed. And when they say,
and they have investments where they find out like, oh, so like the Gilead, whatever the stock for this COVID remedy, remdesivir, hey, by the way, we're about to give this the green light, so you might want to jump in on. And I don't know if you saw, but back in February, they had a bunch of, I think it was mostly Republicans, but a bunch of Congress people who had liquidated most of their investments. Right. They were in meetings talking about the shutdowns and all this other kind of stuff, and they liquidated their accounts to get out, to not be a part of the collapse that was coming. And then boom, the stock market crashes for about 3 weeks, and then poof, and I'm guessing they bought all their shit back. When it was at the bottom, they're like, hey, it's time to get back in. And off to the races ever since then. But that is interesting, the thing with the lobbyists and everything, because so leaving out of Baton Rouge when I do for work, when I leave on a Monday morning, routinely, either when I leave on a Monday morning or when I'm coming back on a Friday evening, there's an old congressman from Louisiana who is now just a retired, now he's a lobbyist. That's his job now. He's on my plane every single time, riding first class, flying. He gets on the plane from Baton Rouge, flies out to Atlanta, and he's on his way to DC. And I'm on my way to go actually produce stuff that makes, the world go round. And he's just going and fucking stealing it and giving the cash to his friends. And of course he's getting paid well to do it. He's always in like his fancy ass 3-piece suit with a briefcase and everything, shoes shined and all that kind of stuff. And, I'm in my comfy sweatpants and my t-shirt and shit. I'm riding on a plane for 7 hours. I am not about to sit there in a damn suit and be all uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable enough in those fucking planes. But yeah, I mean, it's, you see that shit all the time. I'm sitting there thinking like, what the fuck is this old ass dude? Why is he dressed so nice? And then I was like, oh, he's a lobbyist now. That's what it is. And he's making that real money now. Like he was making good money when he was in Congress, but he's making a shit ton more money now. I'm assuming he's probably going to one of those hotels. Yeah, where they're going. It's basically like they're like the hookers. The Congress people are just coming in there, knocking on the door. Hey, it's my turn in there. Let me come
for sure. Yeah, and speaking of investments, did y'all see what happened with Bitcoin and that dude that they arrested?
Yeah.
McAfee.
Yeah.
No, don't talk about John McAfee.
Yeah, we can talk about McAfee too,
but no,
Dude.
I'm talking about that one of the big Bitcoin hubs. The guy that ran it got arrested, and basically, long story short, they said that he wasn't being careful enough, that it wasn't black market shit going through there, which is all nonsense. But in my opinion,
same shit they did to Ross Ulbricht with Silk Road, where it was like, hey, people might like, okay, so then can we shut down the U.S. dollar because people use U.S. dollars to do hit jobs on people and buy drugs too. Like, goddamn, like you hadn't shut down the Federal Reserve yet or the Mint. Goddamn,
for sure. But what I found interesting is my Bitcoin did take a hit for 3 days. 3 days, and then right back up. So for me, I was like, that just shows me that something's in the works for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And because if it can take a hit, like one of its major nodes going down, and then
well, no. So actually, like, what was it? Oh shit, what was the one? Mount Gox or whatever it's called. When that shit happened, that there was like this. Oh my god, that's it. You have this major crash. This major fraud that takes place, and people just thought, okay, well, that's it. That's the end of Bitcoin, and it hit its all-time high within months of that happening. That scandal or whatever you want to call it.
Right. And the reason is because this is just another scare tactic, because what probably happened is it probably did scare a bunch of newbies out of the market. They probably left. And people like your buddy that's a lobbyist went in and bought up a bunch of the shit when it was a little bit lower.
He's probably too much of a pussy to buy Bitcoin, though, to be perfectly honest.
But you get my point.
Yeah. No, definitely, no doubt.
And rebought it. And
right.
So all this is manipulation. Every bit of it. From the coronavirus shit with Trump, all that. This is all bullshit. Every bit of this whole fucking year, has been one bullshit train after another bullshit train of trying to keep us in a state of fear. And, don't get me wrong. It has been a dark month for me. I lost my job, and it has been hard. But you know what? I'm still kicking. I'm still not going to be afraid of some dumb shit that they're pumping out,
Nicco just coughed. Watch out.
No, it was a yawn. I'm tired.
Oh, that was a yawn. All right. No, but that's what we've been here for too. Every week you get your weekly dose of Aquarian Anarchy to keep you going, keep you looking forward to something else. But no, I mean, I'm glad you found a job, and hopefully you enjoy that with your coworkers and everything. Yeah. That'll definitely be a big boost. But yeah, I mean, it's this fear thing is a powerful motivator to steer people.
Out of hand.
Say what?
It's getting out of hand.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, people are genuinely letting fear run their lives. And like, I don't have any real recollection of 9/11, but this is another event that's altering, where things are being cracked down upon, human rights are being infringed upon, and it's like, it's a new normal that people are just going to have to get used to. But it's not even that outrageous if you look at the facts. But facts is bullshit nowadays. Nobody cares about them. They just want to feel as if it's right. And I mean, I understand we are a soul here for feeling and emotional experience, but you can't let your emotions run rampant the whole fucking ride. Like, because it gets you nowhere. Emotions don't lead to logic. Emotions will have you running down this hallway one day, and then you're going to be like, well, why am I down here again all confused and shit? So it's like, if you were to think logically and say, well, these people have lied to us about this, but everybody's catching it. But how many people do you know that have actually, I've known a couple of people who caught corona. I've known some of these people who've gotten hospitalized by it. I don't know anybody who has died from it personally.
Either.
But I know people who have died from it. And I'm not saying it's not a real thing. It just exacerbates symptoms that you've already had. And it just makes everything 10 times harder for you to breathe. But that should not let you be like moving in a box. You should not move in a box. You should not be bubble boy for the rest of your life. Like, we've had other things that have really ran rampant, and like, I was taking people down left and right. I don't see people dropping left and right. I don't.
I think Larkin Rose really hit the nail on the head several months ago when he was talking about, he was like, you know, this whole fucking thing, the reason they shut shit down and freaked out and did all that was to flatten the curve. Well, if this curve is going to get flattened, it damn sure should have gotten flattened.
No, I was saying something. I was like, you know, 2 weeks to slow the spread has become 7 months to do what? I don't fucking know at this point. Like Jesus Christ, we're oh my gosh, I'm so beyond done with this shit. Like, I just want to. Like, I was on a plane coming over here. And I'm in Michigan right now, by the way, and flying back on Thursday instead of Friday, because now I got to get back so I can brace my house and my family for a hurricane. That
you keep yourself safe.
You know, yeah, I hope it kind of dies down before it gets to us and isn't as bad as it was over in Lake Charles, because that was rough, and I don't wish that sort of thing on anybody, and I sure as heck don't want to have to go through it myself, because there was some devastation with that thing. But anyway, on my way up here, you know, sitting on a plane, and that, you know, they have all this stuff where like they threaten to like not ever let you fly again, and I'm doing this shit for work, and like I can't drive all the way to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It'd take me 2 days to get here, and so I have to just kind of suck it up and do some of this shit. So I've got this little neck gaiter thing, and they're like bringing by the fucking water bottle, and like they give you like a water bottle and like some Cheez-Its and some other shit, some little Biscoff cookies or whatever, and they're handing you the stuff, and they're like, you need to pull your mask up over your nose. I'm like, bitch, you just gave me this shit to eat and drink. What the fuck do you want me to do with it? Like, I have to wait until I open everything up, and then I'm like this, and I go like, what? Shut the fuck up and get the hell out of my face. God damn it. Plus, like, I'm sitting in this thing, like, there's nobody sitting next to me. There's nobody sitting around me. The other person is, like, in the seat in front of me, where, like, I'd have to, like, cough over the seat. It's just, some of this shit is so outrageously ridiculous. And then, again, back to the whole thing of, like, we're supposed to have been done with this already. The whole point of all of this shit was to not overwhelm the hospital system. Nobody ever said we are going to prevent anyone from ever dying again or ever getting sick again. This is fucking horse shit. I mean, God damn it. I'm sick of it. And the other thing is too, if you go back to the very beginning, I remember there's this Telegram group that somebody was like, hey, you should follow this. This is some good, they have good updates here. I'm still on it because I like to pull up the shit and just laugh at how ridiculous it is. But they used to have this every day. They would post this little death rate, this mortality rate tracker. And it was 7% for the longest time. 7%. Because all they were doing was they were only testing people who were like going to the hospital because they were really sick, you know? So now that we've done all this fucking astronomical amounts of testing, now, oh my gosh, the cases, there's a huge surge in cases. There's a COVID outbreak. It's like, no, there's not. There's an outbreak in testing. Like, if the testing positive rate is X%, and you test 10 times, you're going to get X times 10 positive cases. If you test a billion people, you're going to get X times a billion. So you're going to have an increase in cases, an astronomical increase in cases when you do an astronomical increase in testing. But what they did was they took the mortality rate that was on this, like they were only testing people who were like sick and going to the hospital and stuff. They took that and they just extrapolated it, and they never reported the death rate anymore. They just stopped reporting the mortality rate because now it's under 1%. It's like 0.5% or some shit.
Right. It's less than the flu.
It is. And so now we're just reporting case increases and case explosions, which just come from testing people more. And then the other thing that they're doing is, if you notice, there will be nothing, boom, explosion of cases today. And then you go look at the data and you find out, oh, well, what they did was they just like, there's a new increase in positive cases or positive results reported today, but the test dates are spread out over like 6 days. Yeah. and it's just, they're just accumulating this data, and then they're like, boom, it's like they're kinking the hose, and then they just let it go every now and then to scare people. And now we're doing, instead of it being this slow, flatten the curve, slow the spread, don't overwhelm the hospital system. The hospital system, if it was ever overwhelmed, it was very brief. And they've had there are tons of places where they like let people go because people were stopped going in for elective surgeries and stuff. And so they were letting
about to get
nurses
overwhelmed again.
Say what?
We're about to get overwhelmed again. There's about to be a very, very big surge because of winter, the flu season, and flu season's about to get intertwined with Corona season.
Oh yeah, and it's just going to be, and it'll just be like it'll be like it's the same thing essentially.
Yeah, and they'll test people and find whatever the fuck they want. Mm-hmm. The thing is, this is all propaganda. Mm-hmm. Every bit of it. One of the things that Amber and I have discussed on multiple occasions throughout this whole thing is that how has this shit impacted my life? How has it impacted my life? If I'm with Nicco, I haven't seen anybody die. No, nobody. I've heard.
So I'll say I have had. There've been some, but this. Let me tell you. I'll explain to you what it is. My dad told me about somebody he knows whose wife died. They're like in their 80s, and I don't know what other kind of stuff she had, but it's like, we're talking about like, this is my dad's 67. No, 68 now. He's 68 now. There's been a stretch for like the last 15 to 20 years where my dad has a cousin or a friend or an aunt or an uncle who's like a younger aunt or uncle or whatever, somebody in their like late 40s to like early 80s. He's been going to funerals like, I don't know, for a month for like 20 years. There's been like 2 funerals that he's gone to this whole like stretch of all the, rash increase in excess deaths or whatever. So but he did have somebody he knows that goes to his church. His wife, allegedly died of it. My dad's aunt, my dad's mom's sister, she was 84. She was in a nursing home. She had dementia. I would say she probably, I would have, if this had happened a year ago, I would have been 0% surprised. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying like, I love my family and everything. I'm not wishing ill on anybody or anything like that. But like, this is not like I don't know anybody who's like 35 and they were perfectly normal. And then they got this thing and they couldn't kick it. And they just like, they suffocated to death from coughing and wheezing and getting their lungs filled up. Like, I knew somebody in high school, my best friend in high school, his sister was 19 years old and died of pneumonia in 1992. No. Yeah, 92, 93, somewhere in there. Okay? The fuck did she die? She died of pneumonia. She was 19 years old. That was like devastating to them. But this is not the kind of stuff that I'm hearing about that's happening now. But that kind of shit happens to like normally, otherwise completely healthy people. She didn't smoke. She wasn't like a party animal or anything like that. She's just a normal, you know, run-of-the-mill girl next door, you know, sister of my best friend. And she died when she was 19 years old, or maybe 20 or something like that. So I like, that's the kind of thing that I was expecting, you know, if this thing is what, and I'm not saying like Nicco said, I'm not saying that there's no such thing or anything like that. I'm just saying that when something's being exaggerated and exploited, and you look at who is benefiting from it and who is being hurt by it, it's always the same people who benefit in every crisis and the same people who get hurt in every crisis. And that is more of a problem to me than the fucking virus that we're all supposed to be afraid of in the first place.
For sure. And again, one of the things that this has managed to do is, for those that aren't familiar with Maslow's pyramid, what it basically is there are different levels of where your attention is. And the bottom level is like getting your food, getting water, getting shelter, those kinds of things, keeping that okay. Once you do that, then you get your love interest and so on. The top of that is self-actualization. At the very top of the pyramid, you are set. You and it doesn't mean that you have all the money in the world. It just means that you're all right and that you are certain of yourself. And they know, and this is, you can go look this up anywhere. They know that the people that are at that bottom, where they're barely making it, are easier to control. So what they've done is they have taken everybody and either moved them to the bottom through economic destruction, or they've made them feel like they're at the bottom.
Right.
And keeping them to where they're worried that they're not going to make it to the next day. So then when they roll out the solution, which is either a vaccine or you can do this, you can't do that, or whatever it is, when they roll that out, they'll say, okay, cool. One of the things that I have said,
and those are the people who are yelling at you in the store if you're not standing 6 feet apart or wearing a mask.
For sure. And Amber got yelled at Kroger the other day by somebody she's not even sure was an employee, told her to leave the store. This person without a badge told her to come in because she didn't have a mask on, because fuck them people. So she was in doing her grocery shopping, and this lady just walks up to her and starts rattling off, you need to order your stuff and you're putting people in danger. And Amber, and make sure you go through this particular line, and Amber's like beep because she's just like me.
Right.
And so but those people are being controlled. Right. And what I'm afraid of, and for those that don't pay attention to this program very much, I am not a traditional Bible thumping Christian. That's just not who I am. I practice voodoo. I practice different methods of spirituality.
Right.
But I have to say, if right now they told you, if you get this little tattoo on your hand and it's 3 numbers, and if you get that on your hand, it'll solve the whole, thing. People be lining the fuck up to get the mark of beast.
Yeah.
And because all these masks is just a talisman. It is a talisman. It is, I'm safe. Because ain't nobody wearing it the way you're supposed to.
No, right. They had a whole little study that came out about that with these pediatricians pediatricians or physicians where they're talking about that, and it was like the average is like somewhere in like the 11 to 17% effectiveness range for these masks that aren't like N95s, where it's like, everything is covered and all that kind of stuff, because their stuff can exit out the sides. The stuff gets through, like the particle size is so small for the virus that it's going through that shit anyway. And it's just, we're all you're right. It's absolutely, it is just your way of feigning compliance or proving compliance. You know, it's.
But
You know,
go ahead, Nicco.
What, Nicco?
I'm sorry.
when I go to my cousin's house, I'm contemplating if I'm going there tonight. But when I go to my cousin's house, she's like, "Oh, wait a second." She grabs a temperature gun and points it at my forehead, and I'm like, "Is this shit really necessary?" Like, you see, I'm not coughing, and you don't see that I've got the sweats. My hands aren't clammy. You know, I don't got runny nose. But when I start smoking with you and start coughing, don't you start looking alarmed, because that's what happens when smoke and lungs get intertwined. So, like, I just find it so fucking, like, I just want to hit my head on a lot of things every time some stupid
Don't do
shit,
that.
like, because it's like, do I have to dumb down myself to try and, like, explain, like, whatever methods you're doing are just dumb? Like, you're expecting me to pass on a virus, and let me tell you, viruses are dead, so, you know, they're not alive. And all the facts they were saying that it stays for days or hours at a time, like, can y'all, like, can I go to a different universe now? Like, isn't my time yet? I'm just waiting, because this shit is so dumb. This shit is like, goodness.
It is. It is. It's infuriating.
Something that Amber pointed out, though, and I get a lot of my wisdom from my wife, just to be clear, and I constantly bringing her up. It's just facts, and I just talk more. But it's true. But she pointed out one thing that they definitely do know, though. They can just pinpoint it now without any question. The people that aren't going to obey, they're easily identifiable. They're the ones in the store without the mask.
Yeah.
And they can pinpoint that shit constantly. And
I don't give a shit. Like, bring it. Let's go. Come at me.
Initially, when this whole mask wearing thing came out, I was like, well, that's stupid. They're fucking up their identification stuff. You know, they monitor all this stuff, and like in Indiana, you're not allowed to smile because it fucks up their what's it called, facial identity.
Yeah.
So I was like, they're fucking that up with the masks, but it makes sense. They don't need to monitor these people who do anything they fucking tell them to. They don't need to monitor them. They need to monitor me.
Well, not only that, but they actually are. There's some stuff you can go look. There's some efforts underway to enhance the facial recognition software to where it can just tell with like your eyebrows, how far apart your eyes are, and different things like that, to where like the use of masks is actually enhancing their ability to like not troubleshoot, but to
basically.
Yeah, it's helping their software to get better at recognizing people who are trying to hide themselves.
I'm coming out the crib with war paint on my face.
Don't carry a spear; you'll send the wrong message.
But no, so back to your thing about the.
I'll tell you a story. I gotta tell you a story.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a funny fucking story. When I was like 19, I had a really good friend. He was a black guy from Bloomington, and he was huge. This dude was like 6'4", 6'5", arms like this, just a huge black dude. And I lived out with a bunch of country folk, but I hung out in Bloomington. And but this dude's name was Valentine, right? So this motherfucker, he knows, right? This motherfucker knows he's about to, because they had
is that like a boy named Sue, Johnny Cash? Whatever. It's like that dude knows. That dude knows how to defend his name. He's like, "Would you call me bitch? I'll fuck you up now."
Right, and it was his real name. So, but we're going right to this little country ass town of Winton, and so because because we're kids, you know. And like Nico's like, well, shit, you're barely younger than me at the time, but I was about 19. And I think he was like 17. Anyway, but we're going to this all night fucking, we called it the all nighters. It was like a drive-in theater, and we partied all fucking night. It was a good time. Anyway, so he knows he's going to this thing in the middle of fucking country land. So he's like, I'm gonna bring a weapon. Is that okay? And me being the dumbass, I'm figuring, sure. I'm thinking at the worst he's gonna bring a gun, probably gonna bring like a baseball bat, some shit like that. This motherfucker grabs a big fucking African spear to put in my fucking car. Big ass fucking thing. Right. So here we are sneaking in because we didn't pay for shit. We snuck into the fucking all-nighter thing, right? And we get in there, and here's this huge fucking black dude carrying a spear. Not a single redneck said a motherfucking thing to him the entire time he was there. So anyway, the spear just reminded me. I thought I'd tell that story because it's fucking hilarious.
It's the big deterrent.
Huh?
It's what?
It's the big deterrent.
The deterrent. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. You wouldn't fuck with this dude. I'm telling you. But what I found funny, and what's hilarious to, I guess, tell the story a little bit farther. So he hooks up with this red-haired fucking pale girl, right, while he's there. Fuck the shit out of her. Well, she had a boyfriend. We didn't know that. We didn't know none of that shit. So we just take off, right? Well, this bitch shows up at my door 9 months later with a black baby. Talking about, have you seen Valentine? I ain't seen it.
Oh, bro, I saw something today. This guy had he had like one of those like how it began tweets or whatever with like a paternity test or something like that. Somebody responded. They're like, he said 23 and not me. It's a DNA test. Said he wasn't the father. I don't know. Valentine might not have gotten away with that. I don't know how.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know how many other brothers there were in your neighborhood, but he might have been singled out a little more easily.
He's a little easy to spot. He's a little easy to spot, Valentine.
Yeah, a little bit. The thing is, I got told the KKK called my house back in that day. Man, they did. This is just a fact. They called my house and told me to get all the N-words and the queers out of my house, or they were going to kill me. And I was like, "Have you seen my house? Bring them. come on over," because they'd have been dead really fast.
Was this when you were running guns?
Yes, it was when I was running guns.
Oh god, dude, that's so like. There's so many people I know now who I just met in the last like 3 or 4 years that I wish I could go back and like grow up with them. Like, oh my gosh, man, the stories that I've heard. I'd love to have been there. I had such a boring childhood and adolescence. I mean, it probably kept me out of a lot of trouble, to be honest, but. I remember I got in trouble one time because I snuck out, went out because I had like we enclosed a porch on the back of my house. My room from like 13 to like, I don't know, 20 or something like that, when I was not living on campus at school, was like a 6x10 porch that we had enclosed to make a bedroom out of it. My bed just like went across like the 6 feet section, and so like I'd get up and like I'd hit my head on a shelf and stuff like that because my bed was barely long enough to hold me. But I got in trouble one time because I snuck out. I had a friend over and we snuck out of the side door that was like, I had my own entrance and exit out of the house. And I went back there and got a Dr. Pepper and 2 Butterfingers. Well, a Dr. Pepper and a Butterfinger for each, me and my friend. And then we came back in and my mom wanted to know where we went. I was like, we were looking for a tennis ball, and I was like worried because I was like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to go get Dr. Pepper and Butterfingers out of thing. Like, think about that shit. Like, I'm like 16 years old and I'm like worried about getting caught getting a Butterfinger and like, not drugs, not alcohol. I'm not like fucking anybody or anything like that. Like, I'm just, what's that?
That's your worries at 16,
bro. I was a nerd like to hell and back, man. It was bad. Somebody said something. Oh, Alvin O'Brien put something about like, think back to, such and such. What would you be doing on a Friday night? I was like, probably playing Earl Weaver baseball on my computer. Like that was I was simulating baseball games. That's what I was doing. Shit. I'm not gonna lie. Like
This argues against your point that you would like to go back and hang out back in the day, because Chad, if you were hanging out with me back in the day,
I'm saying now, knowing what I know now and how I am now, like that younger me wants to be able to go back and.
I think you would have been a narc and you would have snitched.
No, see, I wasn't like that though. I wasn't like that. I was never a snitch. I took so much shit. I took a bunch of shit. Got in trouble myself for not narking on people. I was like Charlie, whatever his name is, the kid in in Son of a Woman. I was that kid, like just straight laced, good kid. Didn't want to upset the apple cart. Didn't want to hurt anybody. But I'm not fucking people over. Like I'm not about that. Like I'll go down with the ship if I have to protect people who I don't think are bad people. That's
for sure. And the thing is, in my group of friends, and we'll probably tell this story and then wrap this part up and move on to the Anarchy After Hour. But in my group of friends, Chad, you'd have been fine. We made a point to kind of stand up for the nerds. I remember I took in my senior year, and I was actually a really good artist when I was growing up, but I just never taken the art class because it was kind of pointless to me. But I needed a class that was just a piss off class. So I took art my senior year, but it was art 1. So I had a bunch of freshmen in my class. And another buddy of mine who was a junior, I was a senior, he was a junior, were in my class. Well, we became friends with the nerds because when you're smart and a rebel, you learn nerds are good friends. So what we did was we became friends with the nerds in our class. And there was this one, his name was Danny Butcher or some shit like that. Anyway, he was a bully, and he was bullying, and he was a freshman too. And he was bullying these nerds. So me and my buddy Chris, who was a badass, like Golden Gloves boxer, just fucking could whoop ass. And so anyway, me and fucking Chris cornered this dude and told him, you ever fucking even think about touching these kids again, we're going to fuck you up. This dude, to this day, if I run into any of those nerds, they come up, hey, how's it going? And,
that's awesome.
Save their asses in school.
Yeah.
So this has been Aquarian Anarchy. It's a little bit different of a episode. As if you've gotten this far, you figured it out.
Yeah.
But it's been a fun episode.
No doubt.
And hopefully you share. I want to again ask you to become a supporter of this production, whether that's through Anchor and subscribing and giving us a little bit of your donation, which you get to choose how much you give, or you can go through the Patreon. And for $1, you can just support us. You don't get anything more than you get than what you for $1 than what you get just on YouTube. But for $5, you get the show that's about to start, which is called Anarchy After Hour. And you also get to be a member of our behind the scenes Telegram group where you can talk. And there's 2 other levels as well.
Shout out to Halima, by the way, our first patron. Yeah.
Yep. He's awesome. And I enjoy the conversation. And I enjoy, the working, meeting people that, in some of, like, for instance, Chad's friends, Brody, for instance, I've had little interactions with him, and great people. And I enjoy that myself. So please, it's just $5 a month. Go join the Patreon, become an Anarch, and help us grow our production. I think it's a good one. And all that said, stay free, my friends.